Our theology here is coming from one of the prison letters. Because when Paul writes to the church in Ephesus, around 60 to 62 AD, he is writing while he is in prison. And he writes to say some things to the Christians who are living in Ephesus. And remember, at this time that Paul is writing to the church in Ephesus, Ephesus is an epitome of idolatry. Because in Ephesus there is a temple of Diana. In Ephesus, all the Caesars are buried in Ephesus. And everything else that has to do with idolatry is done in Ephesus. And somehow Paul is writing to the church that is finding itself in the midst of all the social ills. And he starts by talking with the family relations. So it's like he is saying to the church in Ephesus, as Christian families, this is how you need to conduct and behave. And he will talk about the parents and the children, the husband and the wife, the master and the servant and everyone else that is there. But he will say, remember, in everything that you do, Christ is the master of masters. And he says he is not partial. And before he says all these other things, he will say in verse number 10, finally, brothers, be strong. Or if maybe properly translated, he says, be empowered. But not in your own endeavor, in your own efforts, but in the power of God. Now he is saying all these things just to make a point here in verse number 11. To say, as much as you are doing everything else in this midst of idolatry, upheavals, and everything else that you find yourselves in, says, put on the whole armor of God. It's like he says, be prepared. Be ready. Jima. But not only in one aspect, but in all aspects of your life. He says, so that you may be able to stand. Because here is the thing, he understands that if you are living in the type of situation or so now he says to them, prepare yourself in all sides so that you can be able to stand against the cunningness of the devil. Because he understands that the devil is cunning. He's not only cunning in one aspect. He's not only cunning spiritually. He's also cunning physically. He is cunning relationally. So he's cunning in every sense of the way. So now Paul is encouraging the church and the Christians in Ephesus to say, don't only strengthen one arm, strengthen both arms. Don't only be physically fit, but be spiritually fit as well. Because now he will say, you do all these things, understanding that our wrestle is not against flesh and blood. I will add, it's not only against flesh and blood. Because what we are fighting, we are not fighting against human beings only. But we are fighting against everything else that is inspired and perpetuated and propelled by the evil one. And we need to stand to be on guard, so that when this time comes, we are not caught off guard. Because you know, when you are in the battlefield, there are times the battle is at the peak. There are times the battle is on the middle. There are times the battle is very low. And there are times where the battle is not battling. And at this time is the time when your guards can find themselves low. Because when the enemy attacks, the enemy does not attack in the height of the battle. Because at that particular time you are facing each other. At the middle of the battle you are still facing each other. At the low of the battle is sporadic, but you are still facing each other. But it's only when it seems as if there is calmness, when there is harmony, when we have forgotten that we are in the battlefield, that he attacks. And Bazalwani, he does not attack to injure. He attacks to destroy. So some battles, when they happen in the physical, yes, they happen, but you must also be on guard to those and those that can happen spiritually. Because the danger is when you are attacked both sides. But if you are attacked physically and you are still strong spiritually, there's a chance of of you winning the battle. Because then you start and reinforcing on the stronger side. But now he says, remember, you must be all these things. Have all this unity as families. Have all this social cohesion. Because as much as your battle is not only against flesh and blood, you are also fighting the spiritual forces of evil. And the principalities. So that means you are fighting a heavier battle both sides. That is why Paul will say on some other places that we are hard pressed on every side. He says, but we are not perplexed. He says we are persecuted, but we are not abandoned. We are not abandoned. Says we are crushed down, but not destroyed. He says in every circumstances we find ourselves in. We don't come in on empty. But we come in having something that we can fall behind. But here is the key. Understand that you are in the battle. Understand the battle is battling. And when this is happening, he will say, when you are aware of who you are against and who is on your side, these are the responsibilities that you need to take as an individual soldier. As much as we are doing it united, everyone has a responsibility. And number one responsibility is to your own. Because you cannot lift me if you can't lift yourself. He says, as you are standing in the day of evil, he says, stand. And as you are standing, put on the belt. And he says, this belt is the belt of truth. When the children of Israel were about to conquer and come out of Egypt, one of the things that they needed to do, they needed to celebrate, eat, but they needed to eat with their was to put on the armor belt. So that means when they have put on when they have put on the armor belt, it means they are ready for anything else that could happen. And Paul says here, for you, one of the things that you need to arm yourself with is the truth. Not circumstantially. not conditionally,
ebile sa lebelele gore ke bo mang ba theleditšego,
not when it favors you,
e se gore ke eo e leng gore e kgatha wena,
even when it's against you.
le ge e le gore e kgathanong le wena.
Because when you have spoken the truth,
Ka gore ge o šetše na le nnete e tswile,
you don't have to have a good memory.
ga ona lebaka la gore o gopole tšeo o di boletšego.
Because the truth remains the truth. It doesn't matter how you sleep and how you wake up.
Ka gore nnete e tlo dula e le mo nneteng, o sa lebelela gore o tsogile bjang goba o robetse bjang.
And it says, when you have freed yourself,
Gore bele o šetše o itokolotše moo,
righteousness.
bele o lokafala.
What does he say? He says, you can never have the truth
Ore ga o kgonagale gore o be le nnete,
and not have righteousness.
o se ke wa lokafala.
And he says, you can never have righteousness
Bjale le go le bjalo, ga o kgonagale gore o be le tokafala,
when you don't have the truth.
e le gore ga o mo nneteng.
But he says, when you have these two things,
Ore bjale o šetše go na le tšetše pedi,
and while standing out here to Robert,
they are not done while you are sleeping.
you don't do them when you don't know who you are and who you belong to.
Ebile ga o di diritše o sa tsebe gore wena o mang, ebile wena o wa mang.
But you stand for the truth, understanding who is on your side, on whom you are against.
Ebile o dira tše o eme o tseba gore wena o wa mang, ebile ke mang yo o leng kgathanong le yena.
Because Paul understands one thing, that the truth holds everything together.
Maapostolo o kwešiša gabotse gore nnete ke yona e momantšha dilo ka moka.
And God's truth is even better than all other truths.
Ebile nnete ya modimo ke yona e leng kaone go feta nnete ka moka, dinnete ka moka.
And you can only quench lies with truth.
Ebile o kgona fela gore o pšhatlagantšhe maaka ka nnete.
And the devil attacks with lies.
Ka gore diabolo se yena o tlhabano ya gagwe o e lwa ka maaka.
The devil does not remind you of all the wins you have had.
Ebile ga o gopotse gore o ile wa fenya kae.
He does not remind you of your strong points.
Ebile ga o gopotse le gore wena o kgwatlhile mo le bokae.
He does not remind you of your best moments.
Ebile gore wena o dirile ka botse go e tla kae.
But he reminds you of your worst moments.
Ka gore ka dinako ka moka o gopotsa ka nako e e leng gore o fokola gona.
And so that he can ask you, who do you think you are?
Gore a kgone go botšiša ga botse gore o gopola gore wena o mang.
When you are able to do 1, 2, 3, and 4.
Ka ge e le gore o palelwa ke se le se le sela.
And today what? We get a bitter coffee here.
And today you think that you are better.
You see, we don't use our own righteousness because we don't have any.
Lebaka la rena la go se itshepe mo o lokafaleng a se gore ga ra loka.
Because if we try to use our own righteousness, e ka re batho ba ditshila ba competang ka gore ke mang a ditshila go feta o mongwe.
Because if we do that, we will be hypocrites.
Because how did ditshila o ditshila? It doesn't matter gore o na le tlhabela e le nngwe kapa tse 5 o na le tlhabela.
Because if you are filthy, you just remain filthy.
It doesn't matter gore wena kopane ya o e ka lotong le le leng o na le kopane.
It will not matter whether what is kopane.
O mama. Ha re tsebe ke ka sekgowa mara ke kopane.
Ya sa tseba mama ke re ba ka se betla ke mama.
And then I think ba re ke kopane ka rona le pofolo e la o tle ke kopane.
Oh, it is said in because of an animal of the same nature.
And then I ditshila is called grace. I ditshila ke dutse ka hodima loto ka mo e di le dintsho. Ebile ka re ke lawlessness ke kopane.
Oh, when you have debt that has now formed itself to be part of your skin,
Lena ke tlhabela.
or cracks on your heels, is that one.
And God's righteousness is the only one that can protect our hearts.
Ke ka fela go loka ga Modimo mo e leng gore re ka sireletsa dipelo tsa rena.
Paul is saying to the Christians in Ephesus,
Maapostola Paulo se gore o ba Kriste ba ba ditšeng tulong ya Ephesus.
he says, because all of you, Jews and Greeks, alike,
O re ka moka ga lena Bagerika le Bajuda ka go swana.
the gospel saved you from your background.
O re lena le phodišitšwe go tswa mo le tswang gona ka lebaka la ebannete.
And as it has saved you from your background,
Bjale e šetše e le phodišitše go tswa mo le tswang gona.
it was not your own making,
A se ka bolena.
but it was God's grace.
Eupša e be e le ka kgaogelo ya Modimo.
So now it's like he's saying to them, protect your hearts
O re ka tsela e bjalo e tšhireletša dipelo tša lena.
by not listening to those who are telling you about yesterday.
Ba go bao e leng gore ba tla le gopotsa gore maloba le maabane le dirileng.
A bona motho o hana o na le billion.
You see, a human being is peculiar.
Barack Obama ha fetsa o wina ba president ya America.
When Barack Obama won to become president of the United States,
Ba ntsha photo ya hae a dutse Kenya kwa tshwere zolo ya matekwane.
they show a picture of him smoking weed in Kenya.
Ha ba acknowledge hore ke president.
But not recognize his new stature as a president.
But as much as o nahana hore o santse o le o,
And the reminder to him is that don't forget where you come from.
ka hore mo ya ba o hlapisitse mare wena hantlentle o ntho eo.
As much as you've now been washed and polished, but you must remember who you are.
Mare hore o kgone ho tswela pele o protecte pelo ya hao
But for you to be able to protect your heart
ka toka ena ya Modimo
with God's righteousness
le nnete eo o leng ho yona.
and the truth that you find yourself in,
E ba ditsebe ho ntho e nngwe le e nngwe e tlisang ntho e sa lokang bophelong ba hao.
be an ear to anything that brings brings harm to you.
Ska utlwa,
Don't hear it.
e ba setholo.
Be mum to it. Deaf, sorry.
Ane ska o tshwenya mo o tshwenya.
It should not bother you.
A bona batho ba rona o le leshodu, ska tshwenyeha. Ha e rona o le leshodu.
When people say to you, you used to be a thief, don't be bothered by it.
Tshwenyeha fela ha e le hore o santse o le leshodu.
It should bother you if you are still stealing.
Because ke ntho eno tshwantse hore ha o sa le yona. Ka lebaka la hore Modimo o ntshitse ho yona.
Because this is where God has taken you from.
A re maotong le teng o rwale.
He says, on your feet, you must also wear.
A re o be motsamaisi wa taba tse lokileng.
And you must only transport good news.
O be a messenger of good news.
Ube motsamaisi ube mosepediši wa lentswe le lebotse.
Mo ho nang le dis-encouragement, tlisa encouragement. Yeah. Mo ho leng hobe, fumana ho loka.
Where it is bad, find that one that is good.
Ha o fumana motho a iphasitse ka thapo e kgaole,
If you find somebody hanging themselves with a rope, cut it off.
ba hopotse gore it's not as bad as it looks.
Remind them gore a se ka moo o bonagalang ka gona.
Ka mopotsa paleng ma ke tsebe e nnete ho fitlha kae bazalwane.
It reminds me of a narrative. I don't know how true is it.
Ba bang ba rona ba kile ba itse ba re thakale le ba tla ipolaya.
Maybe some of you have heard it. They say this guy wants to kill himself.
And then o busy ka thapo.
And while he was organizing his killer,
And then ha le busy ka thapo,
while he's busy organizing his rope to kill himself,
o hlaha malabulana.
and
O hlahella malabulana. Ke motho. Malabula.
Oh, is that the name of a person?
Yes.
Oh, and then Malabula comes.
And then Malabula will have fika diaparo tsena tsa hae di Malabula.
And when he comes, Malabula, he looks like his clothes, which are torn.
And then look at monna na re he monna o etsang.
And he starts asking, what are you doing?
Monna na re no ke a ipolaya.
And he responds and saying, I'm killing myself.
A re tseba sa le ke phela nna ke soka ke utswetsa motho letho.
He says to him, you know, if for the rest of my life I've never stolen anything from anyone.
So ke kopa before o ipolaya o mphe diaparo tseo ka ha o so shwele o ka se tlo di tlhoka.
And he says, before you die, please give me your clothes, because after you have died, you will not need them.
Ka hore hore nne ke tswele pele ke phela mare ke futhumetse.
So that I can continue living but walk on clothes.
And then Tagalela la sheba monna o Malabula. Like Cheva.
And he looked at this man and he looked at himself.
And then I wonder if king and I
And he started thinking about the reasons for wanting to commit suicide. And he said, Malabula, thank you very much. And he continued with his life. Because it did not make sense that this guy, as distraught as he is, still wanted to continue.
So it doesn't matter how it looks like.
What I'm saying is that
you may not see it, but there's a light. And the mona leta batsempe tse lokileng next door.
Even though there are bad things happening, know that good things are happening just next to you.
And after ditaba tse lokileng bazalwane le ha o kopane re kgona ho ema ka taba tse lokileng. But even if a se tsa kajeno ke tsa maobane tshwara tsona tse ka hore ke ditaba tse jwang tse lokileng.
Even if we find ourselves in trouble, we must always hold on to the resources or the good things that we have done before.
So go yang teng bazalwane batla se lokileng.
Wherever you go, search or seek righteousness. If you find that you have a bad odor, find yourself a nice perfume. If it's, don't say to yourself, yeah, it smells, I'm leaving.
So there is only an epitome of good news, God's grace, truth, and righteousness.
I'm saying to you, don't find yourself in a situation and leave it the way it is.
As much as we are doing all these things, we need to understand that we need a shield of faith to protect ourselves against the darts, fairy darts of the devil that are being hurled towards our side. When the devil reminds you of your poverty, when your life is becoming better, he wants you to doubt the state that God has placed you in. When the devil reminds you that your husband left you, your wife left you, he wants you to live in fear that somebody else is going to leave also. When all these things happen, cover. When all these things happen, cover. Thanks for going.
Even though it's painful, but I will live on. Even though you frighten me, my fear only ends today. Even if you test me, it will just remain a test, but I will not be tested.
But also, as we have faith, let us also trust that God will will also protect us.
Le rena mo tumelong ya rena re tshwanetse gore re dumele gore Modimo o tla re šireletša.
Faith helps, Bazalwane, when situations don't make sense.
Tumelo ya thuša kudu-kudu mo e leng gore dilo ga di bonagale gabotse.
Where our mental capacity blocks, faith continues.
Mo e leng gore dikgopolo tša rena di a thibana, tumelo ke yena e re tišago.
Where our intellectual capacity is no longer intellectuality, faith continues.
Le mo e leng gore tsebo le botlhale ba rena a se mo e leng gore mo bontsha bo kwešiša tse di diragalago, tumelo ke yona e tlišago kwešišo.
That is why when you are going through stuff and then you are happy, the analytical mind does not understand because it does not make sense.
Ke ka mo e leng gore ge o šetse o ikhwetša o thabile, mo e leng gore o na le botlhoko gona, kgopolo ye e leng gore e rata gore e kwešiše dilo, a e kwešiše gore ke ka tsela mang o e leng gore o a kgona go thaba.
It's only the faithful heart that understands I don't have anything and I can't do anything, but I trust God will do something.
Ke pelo fela ya o itleotšego ka tumelo e e leng gore le ge ke sena selo, ke sa tsebe selo, eupša ke na le tumelo goba ke na le tshepo mo go Modimo.
Says you need also to put the helmet.
O re re tshwanetse gore re apare kefa.
So that means we need to guard our minds also.
Ke mo e leng gore o ra gore ka mantswe a mangwe re tshwanetse gore re tlhokomele dikgopolo tša rena.
What are you feeding your mind?
Ke eng tše e leng gore re dula re ipotsa tšona.
Bona re go qoqele.
Let me tell you a story.
E tla o tshosa lekgetlo la pele.
It will frighten you the first time.
E o tshosenyana lekgetlo la bobedi.
And the second time also.
Lekgetlo la boraro a e sa o tshosa ka gore o tlwaetse.
On the third occasion, you will not be frightened anymore because now you are used to it.
Ke reng bazalwane?
What is my message?
Ke re ha ona ntho e mpe e monate.
I'm saying there is nothing that is bitter and sweet.
Ha ona pelo e mpe e ka etsang gore o be le thabo.
There is no bitter heart that will bring you joy.
But ha o dula o na le pelo e mpe e qetella e le tlwaelo.
But if you have a bitter heart, it becomes a habit.
So but we need to guard our minds.
Ke mo gore na gore re tlhokomele dikgopolo tša rena.
Apostola Paulos o tlo re ha e le dinthong tse ntle, dinthong tse jwalo dulang le dinahang.
Apostle Paul says if there's anything of virtue or good, think about it.
That is guarding our heads, guarding our minds.
Ke go leta dikgopolo tša rena.
Go dumela bazalwane gore Modimo o re pholositsa ra ipholosa. Go fa pholoso ya rona boleng le matla.
To believe that it was God who saved us and we did not save ourselves. This gives our faith value and power.
And then ha dintho di etsahala o sa ntse o tshepa gore le mo Modimo o tla etsa jwalo ka a entse. Maoba.
And when you experience bad things, you continue to have faith that God will do as He did yesterday.
Ka lebaka la gore a ka se etse maobane a se etse ka jeno ka gore Modimo wa rona he is the same yesterday, today and forever.
Because He will not only do what He did for you yesterday and not do it today. Ka ge le Modimo wa lemono go sasa le letšatši le latelago.
And we need also to have the sword of the Spirit.
O re le be le tšhoša ya semoya.
Nagana bazalwane batho ba re hlasetse ka mo ditsotsi di kwetse ka mo di tshwere dithuto.
Gopola fela re le ka mogare ga tulo e magodu ba setse ba le fitlhetše.
A no hlaela le sone le apere jwalo ka nna.
A soldier comes dressed like me,
A tshwere mic.
holding a mic.
I think ha o shebile o le ka ntle o le bona le sone lela o no bona gore yane re shwele.
But if you look from outside, inside, you will think that we are destroyed.
Ka lebaka la gore le dikebekwa di sheba le sone lela di a bona gore hai bophelo ba rona bo kotsing.
Because Even the thieves or the thugs, they can look at the soldier and think that we are not in trouble.
But when we stand firm and we are ready with everything that we need to have, when the devil is also attempting to tempt us, my highway. I remember at some point my young brother lying to me. I was not hurt because he was lying. I was hurt because but at least
but what disappointed me the most is that he did not take any effort to try and lie to me.
But on the periphery, and then I was hurt, and I was angry.
But he just thought and lied to me.
So I'm saying, Bazalano, when we are ready, whatever challenge comes, it does not decide to come, but it plans to come. And when it comes, it finds us going. Because with our sword, we are on the offensive. We are not defensive, but we are offensive. Because defense comes, and when it continues, it becomes conformity. We need to pray. Because the arrow can remain the arrow. Until there's power that propels it. We can have everything else that we have, but if we don't have prayer lives, we don't have anything. Prayer connects us to our commander and it empowers us to stand. We need to pray for strength to endure and also enjoy as we battle. God has given us everything we need. And victory, Bazalwani, is certain. All we have to do is make sure that we don't give up. Because the tool of the devil, Bazalwani, he makes you down your stand so that you can give up. He moves you away from the resources that will strengthen you so that you can be vulnerable. But let us hold on. Let us hold on. Let us not walk naked. Let us not walk naked. But let us walk under the cover. And not only trust on our own ability.